Yes guys, what's good? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to probably the last video you're going to see based in the UK from this channel for quite some time. In just 3 days I'm heading out to Morzine and we're going to be going out there for 10 days of riding and I cannot wait. But the purpose of this video, what I wanted to try and do was just to show you guys how to pack your bag safely away, how to get it safely onto a plane, and basically how to make sure it gets there in one piece. So I've got the EVOC Bike Bag over there, which I'll showcase shortly. But first of all, it's time to get this thing cleaned up because as you can see, it is absolutely minging. So we'll get that done first. So with the bike now cleaned up, what I'm going to do is take the opportunity while it is clean just to swap out the rear tyre. It's starting to show a little bit of signs of age and I don't think it's going to make it through 10 days of riding through the Alps. So I'm just going to swap it out prior to getting there. But what I'm doing is going pretty much like for like. So I'm going back with a Continental Crip Total, but this time I'm going with the downhill casing rather than the Enduro casing that's currently on there. Absolutely nothing against the Enduro casing, I'd easily get it again, no complaints, but I thought with 10 days riding in the Alps it's going to get some punishment, so I thought better off going with a thicker casing just to give it half a chance. So time to get it stuck on. So after a bit of a battle, the back tyre now has a fresh set of rubber on there and we're ready to rumble, so we'll wheel that out the way and move on to the bike bag itself. So this is the EVOC Bike Bag and this is one that I got last year and they are quite pricey. I think this one came in at about 400 quid, so they're not cheap, but what you're putting inside it isn't cheap either, and these are really well built. There's lots of protective padding sections, lots of panels that can get roughed up and that'll take a bit of a beating, and what you get with the bag itself are these 4 rods. Now these rods help to give it a bit of structural integrity, and hopefully you can see these will just slot inside these little pouches on either side of the bag. So these are just metal rods, 2 longer ones, and that just goes on there with a bit of Velcro, and the other longer one slots down there. And like I say, this just gives it a little bit more support on either side and offers a bit more of a proper casing rather than a loose bag, if you will. So pop both of these in and you can already see the bag's now able to stand up on its own without the bike in, just with those supports in there. Job done. Now on the bike itself, or the bag itself rather, you've also got these 4 plastic tubes. Now what these do again is just act as supports on the inside of the bag, but these go where your tyres and your wheels go, and again red indicators, and you just slide that inside. Velcro keeps it in place. One there, one down there, and again like I say, just gives it that little bit more support. Spin the bike around, or the bag around, and exactly the same on this side. Now eagle eyes will spot the coloured code. Now that's just something I put on there so that as soon as my bag comes out I can recognise it straight away, because as you can imagine, flights going into Geneva at this time of the year are full of mountain bikers heading to Morzine, and most of them have probably got black bags, so it just helps to identify your bag at a distance and stop you picking up somebody else's bike or anything like that. But once you've got those in, those are the houses for your actual wheels and tyres. You've got these protective pads there and there, obviously just to protect your brake disc or the actual cassette itself depending on the wheel. And then if we open the bag up, inside you'll see anything that's red is basically a strap or an indication to help you basically identify where you're going to put the bike, how it's going to basically be padded and protected, and how it's going to be secured in place. So what I'll do is I'll disassemble the rest of the bike. I got the back tyre off obviously to do the, or the back wheel rather off to do the tyre. I'll get the front wheel off, dismantle that a little bit more and then we'll start packing. So if you are planning to fly anywhere with your bike, one thing that's important to remember is that you do need to let out some of the pressure on both your tyres and your front suspension as well. Obviously with being on an aircraft and the pressurisation and such, but you don't have to make them so that they're completely flat. You just need to get the initial air out so that it's not completely pressured. So as you can see there, that is now nice and soft. And what that will also do is give you a bit more room when you're putting it into the bike bag itself. Obviously it's taking up less space. So on the EVOC bike bag you've got these two compartments, one on either side, and these are designed perfectly to house your wheels or your tyres and protect them as well. So you get one either side of the bag. Now, depending on where you're flying to and which airline you're flying with, you do get a fairly decent baggage allowance in terms of the weight. Now, EasyJet, who we're flying with, allow up to 32 kilograms for the bike bag. Now, the bag itself comes in at 9 kilos, so it is quite a heavy bag. Not too sure on what my bike is. I think it is about the 15 mark, so if you do the maths, it does leave you with a good few kilos afterwards that you can stick inside the bag as well. So what I did last year was I wrapped all my clothing, my bike gear, I got my there as well, but wrapping your actual clothing around the frame just helps give it a little bit of protection while it's inside the bag as well. But what I've done this year is I've stepped up a little bit and I've bought these. Now these are just a couple of pounds from, you know, local DIY shops, and these are just those insulation for piping. So what I'm going to do is put those around the frame, just to give it a little bit more protection, as well as my clothing as well, and just to keep it a bit more solid inside. So I'll get these cut up and we'll put them on. So the bike's now completely disassembled. I've took off the pedals as well. Obviously you've got to take off quite a few of the components just to allow room inside the bag itself, and the pedals are one of the major ones that have got to come off. Now what I tend to do with these, obviously they are quite heavy in the metal, so you don't want them rattling around inside the bag. I tend to use one of my old bike rags, which is just used for a bit of anything on the maintenance side, and what I'll do is I'll wrap my pedals just inside like that, and then good old bit of tape, just tape those up. And what that also means is when you get to the other end, you've got a bike cleaning rag just for doing those little odd jobs and stuff while you're out, and that's just going to give it a bit more protection while it's inside the bag as well. Little top tip. What I also do with the tape is anything that's got a bolt or anything of that nature, I wrap it up with its actual component piece. So there is the two clamps for the stem that connects it to the handlebars. I've took those off and then I've just wrapped them in tape just so that I know exactly where they are. So inside that tape is 2 bolts and the clamp, same in that one, 2 bolts and the clamp, and they'll then go inside one of these zip pockets just inside the EVOC bag itself, and I'll know exactly where everything is. So the handlebars have come off and I've took one of the brakes off, the back brake, just double checking, I've took the back brake off there just to give it a bit more flexibility, because there's not too much flexibility in this hose because it's got both the dropper and the rear brake. So what I'll then do is tape those to the bike itself, again just to stop any movement, and again I'll use another rag just to give it a little bit of padding and a bit of cushioning. And you can see also that I've used these insulation, these pool noodles essentially, just to tape up any sensitive areas on the bike and just to give it a little bit more protection while it's in transit, because, you know, it's my pride and joy and they're not cheap. So the more you can look after it and the more you can prepare it, the better. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start putting this into the bag now and taping up these bars and such, but I'll show you how it fits inside the actual bag as I'm doing it as well. So with the bike now actually in the bag and the bulk sat on this plastic block, we can start to sort of use these red straps that you can relocate. So this one goes around the actual seat post itself, and you've got 3 different locations, obviously depending on the size of the bike. Now last year I took an Obeya Rallon, or Ryan, however it's pronounced, and it fit perfectly in this bag. This is the Santa Cruz Mega Tower, and it is a little bit longer and it is tight, it's snug. So this year I'm having to move this from the furthest one into that middle section just to keep it in place. But what these straps essentially do is just stop the bike from moving around too much in transit. And you've also got this one, which is designed especially for the top tube, hence the top tube on there, and the headset there, so that goes at the front. And what this basically does is wraps around the bike itself, and then these red straps underneath will just help to secure the bulk of that frame in place as well, and just keep it centralized in the bag when it is in transit. All these are the various straps as well. Again, just anchor the bike in place and just keep it a little bit more supported and a little bit more rigid. Now, I just mentioned about the Rallon or the Ryan that I took last year. That fit in here, no problem at all with the derailleur on. This year I've just had to take it off, which no major issue, but obviously it is a longer bike than last year's, taking up a little bit more room. But truth be told, I think taking the derailleur off anyway is probably the better option, because it's just another fragile part that could get damaged in transit if there's any sort of knocking or banging. So I'll take that off completely, wrap it up in another towel and just pop that to one side. Once we've got all these components in and the straps down, I can then start wrapping around my clothing and my equipment. So that's the bike now fully in there, all the straps are done, it's secured, it's not going anywhere. I've put the derailleur at the back and wedged it between the 2 pillars themselves of the bike. So that's the bike now in there, firmly strapped in place, it's not going anywhere. All that's left to do is start putting the clothing in there and things of that nature. Obviously I'm going to have to tie the pedals down as well just to keep those secure, but as you can see, there's still plenty of room for any other gear that I'm going to be taking and using for the week itself. As I mentioned, you get 32 kilos weight on EasyJet. The bike I think is about 15. The bag itself is 9, so I've got about 5 or 6 kilos to play with, so I can still fit things like shoes. Yes, I have bought a pair that match my bike. But yeah, you can still get your shoes and plenty of other gear in there as well, and it all helps with the padding just to keep it secure in transit as well. So what I'll do is I'll just put loads of clothing in there, get it all ready and packed up, and I might as well do the full lot. That way I'm completely ready to go and sort other areas out. So we'll get the clothing in there and we'll take another look. So with the bike now inside the bag and it padded up pretty well, you've still got plenty of room left inside to start padding it out. And like I say, EasyJet, you've got 32 kilos, so you've got plenty of room. Knee pads, you can get those in there quite easily, quite comfortably, and what that's going to do as well is just help protect things a little better from knocking about. And again, like I say, what I tend to do, my riding gear, so riding pants for example, I'll wrap it around various parts of the frame just to give a bit more protection and a bit more padding wherever it might be. And it'll just help things stop from rattling, moving around while in transit, and that way you're not getting back to any nasty surprises when you open it back up. And then once you've got your gear inside, however that might be, zip it back up. And like I say, there's plenty of nice extra pockets on the actual bag itself just to put your spares in, little bits and pieces. And then obviously once you're done, the entire thing is on wheels as well. But that's pretty much it, packed up, ready for the trip, ready to rumble. And like I say, just pointing out once again, little tip because it does come in handy, stick something on your bag while you're in the airport or just beforehand, just to make it instantly recognisable so that you know that it's definitely your bag. But yeah, good to go, ready to rumble, and the next video is going to be from Morzine, so Thanks for tuning in, guys. Make sure you subscribe, like the page, like the profile, like the channel, and I'll see you out on the trails. Take it easy.